Yes, sir, man.
So the question becomes, is COVID still hiding in your body? And in French it would be...
Est-ce que le COVID est dans votre organisme?
So the big question is COVID still hiding in your body? Now most people believe that when you don't feel it in your lungs anymore, you don't feel it in your throat, that it has cleared the system. But what we know now is that, like many viruses, COVID does not leave the body. I'll give you an example. Epstein-Barr never leaves the body. Mono never leaves the body. Chickenpox, we all know chickenpox, herpes zoster, never leaves the body. If we get run down, it comes back and we call it shingles. So there's many viruses that never leave the body. Herpes varicella, I think, is the one that gives you the cold sore. So if you get run down, you'll see these viruses reattack. And so what I've seen in the last 5 years of my practice is that people got over COVID, but then they were still tired. So what is long COVID? Now Nicholas is down here, we're in good old Wisconsin. United States, there was supposedly 34 million Americans that experienced long COVID, and over 20 million still have long COVID. What are the symptoms? I'm tired. I have headaches. I have brain fog. My joints hurt. My short-term memory is gone. I have no motivation. I have digestive issues. I have anxiety. I have depression. I can't recover from a workout. That sounds a lot like Lyme disease to me. So it was a great interview. Tucker Carlson interviewed a guy named Patrick Soon-Shiong. He's a cancer specialist from Los Angeles, 50-year cancer specialist. And he made an interesting comment. 3 to 4 years out from the last time someone knowingly had COVID, they found that they actually were finding in a colonoscopy, they were finding the COVID virus still alive and replicating in the colon. And so Tucker asked him, do you ever get rid of COVID completely? And Soon's quiet answer was, I don't think so. But if you die of COVID, it's in every organ, every cell of the body. Wherever you have blood going, well, it's every cell of the body. It gets in that ACE2 receptor. The spike protein comes into that receptor, as I understand it, and then it really damages the mitochondria. And actually it damages the inner membrane of the mitochondria called the cristae. And that collapses your electron transport chain. So if you can't transport electrons down that chain, you can't make energy. And the electrons become devastating, damaging the actual electron transport chain. So methylene blue does seem to be a stopgap because it helps you get the electrons down that pathway. So that's just a little side note. So then Tucker asked him why we can't clear it. He made a really good example of this. He said, you take a virus, and they took this virus and they put it in a lab and they moved it tens of thousands of years ahead of our immune system. How do we make up that gap? That's really difficult. So I have a kit in my office and it has COVID-19, Delta, Omicron, and COVID-25. I'm not sure if they named this one. So it's got 4 of the known COVID viruses plus spike protein. So as a personal note, I had lost about 1/3 of my kidney function, developed a lot of inflammation in my gut system, had experienced kidney stones a couple times. Blood sugar was up over 50 points in about 18 months, and from the last time I did a comprehensive blood panel. Didn't make any sense to me. How could I, not eating different, not doing anything different, but I lost all this function. So I thought, well, I've got a kit here with all that stuff in it. So I grabbed it, and sure enough, I started checking the colon, large intestine, ascending, descending. I found it in my pancreas, I believe, liver, kidneys, brain, and the joints. It almost mimics what Lyme does, hides in many of the same spots. So just for a second, backing up, I believe Lyme is a biological weapon they developed in the 50s, and it got loose, and it's in Canada, and it's the United States, and it's all over Europe, it looks like. And COVID's no different. That was a biological weapon developed at Chapel Hill. They moved over to Wuhan, kept developing it. And so now we have to deal with these man-made pathogens or gain-of-function pathogens that are very difficult to get rid of. Mm-hmm. So Pierre Corey was one of the first people to talk about ivermectin back in 2020. He testified before the Congress in the United States, and he said, don't use remdesivir, just use ivermectin. So he's done thousands of hours studying on that, him and Paul Merrick. They had that FLCCC group, Frontline Critical Care COVID group. But it's interesting, no one talks about COVID anymore. They kind of brushed it off, and then you're stuck where you're stuck. So what I found is I started using ivermectin on myself. I went to the local farm and barn because I didn't know how to get the tablets. Now I found some sources for the tablets, and I did 0.3 milligrams per kilogram for 30 days. And after the 4th week, I found that it pretty much cleared the virus out of my body and spike protein. And one of the things that Pierre Corey says, he wrote a book called The War on Ivermectin. You guys should buy that, look it up. The War on Ivermectin. He explained in there that out of all the compounds he's ever seen, that ivermectin binds the spike protein better than anything. It's not the virus that hurts you, it's the spike protein. So is COVID hiding in your body? The answer is yes, it never leaves. But looks like we can actually help it, remove it to a level where we can actually be functional again. And so if we can do that and remove the spike protein, then you want to get right on top of that, because what I'm finding is that a lot of my patients, and I had a young man on my table probably 3 years ago, and he's like, "Can I ask you a question?" I'm like, "Well, sure." He's like, "What happened to me?" I'm like, "I don't know. What happened to you?" And he said, "I've been coming here for years for Lyme, and I'll get a little sore neck, I'll get a little night sweat in the springtime, and I'll come in here and you'll figure out exactly what type of Lyme it is, and I'll drink your nasty tincture for a month, and then I'm good for maybe a year, maybe longer." He said, "But you don't know this, but I've been coming in and buying that tincture every 3-4 months. I'm at the front desk." And I go, "Well, why?" He said, "Because I feel all my symptoms come back. I can't keep it gone." And this is the number one thing that we've found since COVID came out, that you have a really difficult time keeping any virus out, Lyme out, because they are all opportunistic. Okay, remember, all these viruses, Epstein-Barr, mono, cytomegalovirus, they're not going away. They go dormant, they go quiet, but if I suppress your immune system, you cannot fight these things. So reactivation of Lyme, cytomegalovirus, Epstein-Barr, and then you're going into all these places and looking at all these labs and taking all these supplements, and nothing's working. Why? Because you have to get rid of the COVID and you have to get rid of the Lyme. Those are very treatable. Epstein-Barr is more of immune function. Viruses are mostly immune. If you can bring up your immune system, you can put them into dormancy again. So one of the things that Dr. Suden said is, wherever COVID hides in the body, take the brain for example, it causes extreme inflammation. And your immune system revs up. Your T cells and natural killer cells come up hard at it. Your body's like, whoa, 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 we don't need any autoimmune here. We don't need ALS or Parkinson's. So your body recognizes that, and it flips the killer cells into suppressor cells. So wherever COVID hides, it seems to be causing a localized suppression of the immune system, gut, brain, heart, liver, kidney, joints. And then if I suppress the immune system there, the body says, or the viruses and the bacteria say, "Hey, I can go party on Nicholas now because nobody's going to stop me. I have nobody checking me at the door." So then reactivation of all the viruses, reactivation of Lyme. And so you get over COVID, I'm getting over COVID, and these symptoms leave, and then you just bounce, you're bouncing along on the bottom. So you have to, in my patient base, I treat the Lyme, the support, can't say treat in this country. Freedom of speech, Then you want to use something like an ivermectin. This is just me talking. Go read about it, look it up, 0.3 milligrams per kilogram. It's not a heroic dose, it's a very small dose, but that's enough to ferret it out, bind up the spike protein, and then you absolutely have to turn the mitochondria back on, you have to turn back on the immune system. So then when you start talking about peptides, SS31 does an amazing job of repairing the mitochondria, the inside of the mitochondria. It's like rebuilding the motor in your car. I'm not going to give you a new motor, but I'm going to rebuild every motor, every cell, every mitochondria out there. And the thymosin alpha-1 does an amazing job of helping your immune system kind of come out of that autoimmune and back down. So I've seen patients, we'll get back to the guy who was on my table, and he asked me this stuff. He says, "What happened to me?" I'm like, I think COVID broke the immune system. He's like, "What?" But I didn't know 3 years ago that COVID was still hiding in your body. I had no idea. So there are labs out there. LabCorp has 3 labs. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but it's total spike protein, and then there's one for total nucleocapsid, IgG. Now that would be something, if you're struggling along and you really want to try to figure this out, if you have a load of that there, you can look up LabCorp. I'm not sure if they have them in Canada, but they have 3, and I'll make sure Nicholas can post them on this video. There's 3 labs, 1/6 something. They're like $40 here in the United States per lab, so like $120. You can get an idea of how much long IgG, remember IgM is your first reaction to anything, IgG is your long-term reaction, so if you get reactivation of Epstein-Barr or some other virus, you'll see a kickback up of the IgG. So I had a patient come in last week who was feeling pretty bad, and so in August he went down, and I saw him in July, and I said, hey buddy, you got like 3 forms of COVID on your body, and you need to get the ivermectin because he had the reactivation of the Lyme. He was feeling pretty bad. So he went to his naturopath down by Milwaukee, and they did this spike protein test, and he was off the charts on spike protein. So I had found the COVID and the spike protein. I said, did you do the ivermectin? No, I couldn't find it. Go to the farm and barn and get it. Get going on it. So he'd never done it, but he had done that LabCorp test, and his spike protein was through the chart. And this is what's happening, because the spike protein is damaging the mitochondria. And when the mitochondria fall and they poke holes in the cristae, the inner membrane, you can't make energy.
Yeah.
So that's why people see a big pickup from methylene blue and other things like that. But that's a stopgap. It's going to keep you rolling, but you're
this is a crutch.
A crutch, a good crutch. Maybe long term it's going to optimize that, but so you have to rebuild the inner membrane of the mitochondria. And so the inner membrane, think of it like an accordion. You know what an accordion is?
Yeah.
So what if I took an accordion and I just ripped it apart? I took all the folds out of it. That's what spike protein does to the inner membrane, because it's got all these folds in it, and that's how the electrons get transported. It just totally devastates that. So what the SS31 does is it repairs your accordion, repairs the cristae membrane, and then with some good fatty acids like good fish oil, that's cardiolipid in there, so that's pretty specific fatty acids. So again, COVID is hiding in your body, but it looks like you can, and there might be some herbals that do a good job too. We've got one product that seems to help, but overall, number one, you have to identify, if you can. So for years, I couldn't identify the spike protein. I couldn't identify the nucleic capsid. The nucleic capsid does not change virus to virus, right? The COVID virus, same nucleic capsid every time. The spike protein mutates. So what they did when they made these vaccinations is they patented, or they went after the spike protein, probably knowingly. So guess what? If you did the nucleic capsid, it would have been one vaccine and done. Never changes. You've got a vaccine, you're good to go. So every time the spike protein mutates, you have to make a brand new series of vaccines for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a never-ending cash cow. Truth.
Cash cow.
So I don't advise getting the vaccine because I've seen so many neurological damages. I've got 75-year-olds walking into my practice that I haven't seen for a few years that took the vaccine, ALS, fast-acting Parkinson's, very fast-acting memory loss. These are all things that take 10 to 15 years to develop. 75-year-olds don't get Parkinson's, 75-year-olds don't get ALS. That's a 45-year-old problem that has a genetic factor. It maybe got Lyme and it triggered it and off they go, and they only last about 2 years and they're typically gone. Not a 75-year-old. But now 95% of ALS is not genetic. There's a different trigger for it. Okay, it's not a genetic trigger, and we're dealing with that now. So I do have a patient I've been helping with, she's been on the peptides. I kind of just pointed her in the right direction. She's actually seems to be getting better from ALS.
Crazy.
She couldn't walk when she came in hardly. She's on a walker, and she couldn't hardly breathe, very difficult. And she's doing 4 or 5 peptides, and she's actually seeing improvement.
Crazy cool.
And I've never had any luck with it before. But what do? We treated the Lyme right up front, supported her body.
Yep.
Supports. She did the ivermectin to get rid of the COVID. Like, okay, we cleared the ship here. Now let's rebuild the mitochondria, and did a lot of peptides for brain, the BDNF, neuroregeneration.
Which one is it?
So it's cerebrolysin. Dihexa, cerebrolysin are very good for that, for the brain. SS31, she's doing NAD, she's doing, I think that she's doing the epitalin we talked about.
Yep.
And she's seeing remarkable improvements. And this was within 4 months, because she was supposed to be gone in 18 months. So again, COVID does hide in your body, other viruses hide, and Dr. Soon, I recommend watching the interview with Tucker Carlson. He said a lot of viruses are oncogenic, which means they suppress the immune system enough that eventually abnormal cells can take off. Because natural killer cells and T cells are your natural defense against many of these pathogens, but also against cancer. So that's why cancer's up almost 50% since 2020. So that's what we found. Again, I'll give Nicholas the LabCorp numbers so you can get your labs and just show that. But again, 30 days, what I've been finding with my patients, doing the pre and post spike protein and the nucleic capsid, that really drops the numbers down. And then go after your immune system to bring it up as much as you can, vitamin D, vitamin C, and some of these peptides, and then go after the mitochondria. And it seems like you can make an absolute full recovery, and maybe even be better than you were before.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Alan.